what are you willing to sacrifice to make your art? What is your highest vision, and what are you trying to accomplish with it?
I guess everything that doesn't physically harm another human being. If we could do like an Ocean's 11 heist and rob a casino to fund all of our projects, I would definitely be morally compromised into doing that. But kind of in a more realistic frame.
What do you mean, man? I got the heist plans over here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, let's do it, man. You know, in indie comics, there are daily, weekly, hourly compromises and conflicts and tensions between the life you want to lead and the art you want to create. Am I going to miss this friend's wedding? Am I going to not hang out with the dudes and watch the football game? Am I going to cut back on going out to eat X number of times a month? What things am I willing to sacrifice? Anyone that's kind of on the fence about doing indie comics, I got some bad news for you. It's going to test you in that arena. Coming from my limited viewpoint, I've had to make some very difficult choices that I didn't anticipate I would make. I stand by them, and in 10 years, if I'm underneath the overpass in August with the little sign saying, need money for beer and comics, that might be me, but the decisions I made kind of led me there. And right. At this point, maybe it's the sunk cost fallacy, but I'm in.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Comix Grind. I am one of your hosts, Nico Rodriguez.
And I'm Ken, aka Comic Ken on YouTube.
And welcome back to another weekly comics discussion. Today, we have another special guest in the house. He is the all-star comic book writer of Orson Welles' Warrior of the Worlds. This is an exciting one today. We have MILTON LAWSON in the house, dude. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Nico. Hello, Ken. Thank you so much for having me.
What's up?
Yeah, man. It's actually been it's been a long time coming, Milton. We should have had you on earlier than this. My apologies, because we've been comic book buddies for a good while now.
No, I appreciate it. Although I'm a little bit concerned for your podcast, because you're going from like Nick Pitara down to me. This is like, this is not a good trend line here. You need to.
We all do comics, dude. We're all in the field. We're all here. We're all here, man.
Yep,
relative to all the other industries, like comics is pretty.
Very true.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of even keeled here, but
this is.
But you know what?
Go ahead, Ken.
I would say like comics and novels and stuff, like they're like the bedrock. You know what I mean? Like we're creating like the foundation of what's the next pop culture.
Yeah.
No, that's a good way to look at it, Ken. Thank you for positive words.
Yeah, let's bring it up
instead of us constantly berating ourselves.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for joining us today. Let's go ahead and kick off with the weekly grind. This is how we do it here. We kind of talk about what we've done in comics this week. Milton, let's go ahead and start off with you, dude. Comics wise, what you been working on?
Well, I hate to break format, but I guess honesty is part of the process here. About 2 weeks ago, I got hit by a thunderbolt of an idea that I don't think is a comics idea, and it would be more suited to a screenplay. So I've taken a couple of weeks break from comics, and I pitched the idea to one of my really trusted creative friends, and it's in a genre that I'm not very experienced in. And I wanted to say, hey, is this a thing? Because, it seems like a thing. Should I develop this, or is this just bullshit? And he's like, hey, I think you might have something there. So I've kind of been working on that. And on all my comic stuff, I'm in a sort of project managerial phase on everything right now. So I don't have the creative juice flowing on creating comics at the exact moment,
right?
But I shall get back very soon.
Yeah, and we'll kind of maybe get into some of those projects hopefully here in a little bit. But the project managerial phase of comics isn't all that bad of a thing, I don't think, because it means you've done a lot of stuff already. So now at this point, you're kind of making sure things go according as planned, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got one project that is actually my longest standing comics project. That we had a bit of a pause on some of the development, and the artist on the project is kicking back into gear after a little bit of time away, and so I've been reviewing, some of that work.
Gotcha. Awesome stuff, dude.
Nice.
Sweet, sweet. What about you, Ken? What you been up to? I know you made about like 3 books this week, right?
That's really good, Nico. That's a hilarious joke, bro. Yeah. No, man. I've done like, man. I think I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm not like 100% market mode now. I can like start getting back into drawing stuff and whatnot. I've been trying to position myself to make it so that I can draw and just focus on drawing. And soon my job is going on break again, so I can just focus on doing that. And then the marketing stuff can just be kind of something I progress towards slowly, like progress little by little at a time, instead of going so hard on it, because I feel like I know what I need to do now, so I can just draw and then focus on the marketing aspect secondarily instead of putting it at the priority.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the cool thing with your job is that you actually get like these little breaks, right? So like you're about to go on like winter break for what, a couple weeks or something?
Yeah. Because I work at a school, we
Yeah.
get these breaks, but it's not so great for my finances because I have to find a way to like support myself during that time.
Oh, okay.
But it's great because I have like full days to like do what I want, or like kind of test run being a full-time artist, which is nice.
Yeah.
Other than that, I visited Nick Patera at his studio, and we drew for a little while. I was mostly focused on like marketing stuff at that time, but he was also kind of uh like wrapping up his marketing phase, in terms of he's getting his books out to backers for his project, and now he's starting back into the drawing phase of the next book of it, Axe Witter John.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that he posted. I guess all the fulfillment packages are starting to go out and stuff. So that's dope.
Yeah.
Which Ken did some colors on, by the way. Whenever I,
Oh, yeah.
whenever
Nice.
I opened up that first page and I saw you down there for the color credit, I was like, damn, I need to get this guy to sign it now.
Yeah, I finally got a book, man.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. In terms of my grind for the week, I've been working on the Substack comic that at this point I should have at the point of this release, there should be a few episodes out for Brew Monsters, the comic that I am serializing on my Substack. So I've been working on that. It's been fun, man. It's been and I talked a little bit about this maybe in the last episode or in like a Substack video or something, but it's a really good kind of palate cleanser from kind of what I've been doing for the whole last year. With doing a West Not South, so
right.
it just feels it feels good, to kind of take a break from that and like get invested in like kind of like a funner kind of more fast paced kind of book. So
Right.
that's been good. What else did I do this week?
I wanted to ask really quick, did you complete West Not South in a year, or how long did that take you, the whole process?
So I started late September. So
2022?
Yeah, 2022. So
Okay.
it's November now, so about a year and a month, we'll say.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah. So about a year, just over a year or so. And it's been like pedal to the metal with that, for literally a year straight. So it's nice to kind of kick back from that a little bit and get
Nice.
invested into some other stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've been kind of experimenting with my printer a little bit, because I've been really getting into like doing blue pencils on Procreate, like on my iPad.
Mhm.
So I was kind of experimenting with my printer and seeing if my printer can take 11 by 17 Bristol board through the feed. Luckily, and it can, which I was very happy to find out.
Right.
So I printed out some quick rough blue pencils onto a page and kind of been just messing around with some inks on that, for getting the process down for a future project. Another one that'll be, pop in my head at sometime soon, I'm sure. Ken, do you have any experience with that? With printing out blue pencils on Bristol board or blue pencils at all? Do you have any experience with that?
Yeah. I actually learned
Do you use blue pencils for your pencils?
No, I don't use blue pencils. I'll pencil it all in black and white on like a large piece of paper, and then I'll scan it in and put it into Photoshop, and then turn it into blue lines.
Yeah.
And I looked up the exact like hexadecimal number to translate so that it would print out just light enough for me to see the lines, but not dark enough for it to like overtake the inks. And that's something I learned from Nick, actually. Nick Patera. Like he showed me the exact printer that he uses, and I went out and bought that same printer. And just now I can put in 11 by 17 Bristol board and get it out. So like I'll translate the lines into that blue color in Photoshop or Clip Studio, and then I'll print it out from there.
Yeah, that's a little thing. What I'm worried about when I scan it back in, I'm hoping that I can at least adjust out the blue marks, because I know that there's a, like you said, what is it? The hexadecimal count is what you said. There's a certain
like
one,
the exact number.
Yeah, like the exact number that when you scan it in, it doesn't show up. Is that what it is?
It would be like blue line, like that's the exact blue line color. But like when you print it out, it will come out in that color. You can see it just well enough to ink over it, and then when you scan it back in, it won't reproduce. Like it'll only produce the lines, not the
right.
Yeah.
So that's something. Next episode, get that count from Nick or from your notes or whatever, and bring it back to the show so all the viewers out there can know. Not me, just the viewers.
Right. Yeah.
But cool, man. Enough of that nerdy artist talk. Milton, man. Well, I kind of wanted to talk about. I saw there was like this pretty interesting looking Batman cartoon trailer that came out this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's like this new Christmas Batman movie coming out.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I saw like the animation style, and I freaking loved the animation style on it. It was very it reminded me of like the line work of like Ed, and Eddie. Like if you guys used to watch Ed, and Eddie back in the day, it's very kind of energetic and like almost like it's like moving the whole time. And it was interesting. I don't know if you guys did you guys get a chance to see that one on there? I think it's called, I got it on my notes here. Merry Little Batman is what it's called.
Oh, really?
I haven't had a chance to see it, but it sounds cool.
Ken, what you said you were able to check it out, huh?
Yeah, I saw the trailer like a couple days ago. It was just a kind of another take on like Batman and Damian Wayne, and it was interesting that Batman had a beard in it. Like he had a beard underneath the cowl, and that he wasn't Bruce Wayne at all. Like it was a completely different character, pretty much. It's like some guy being Batman. It was like he had more of a father type energy rather than Batman type energy. So it was different, but it's like you could see the audience that it's aimed for. It's more like a definitely a kids cartoon type thing. So
yeah, definitely kind of like Teen Titans Go ish,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
but it looked pretty cool. I'm interested in seeing, just because like it looked different, like the nuance of like the character models and everything, it looked very different to me. That's why I'm kind of like interested in it, you know.
Right.
As far as like other like, have you guys really watched or delved into like the Marvel movies at all? I feel like there was like a time, at least I know
Like
Ken, you're younger than Milton and I, but there was like a time when like I was very invested into Marvel movies in terms of like this epic saga thing that they had going with, you know, the Thanos and everything. Did you guys kind of get involved in that at all, Milton?
Yeah, I mean, I was heavily invested in that stuff, and I think it's kind of in vogue at the moment to criticize Marvel for everything they're doing right now. I'm not one of those folks, but I think it's hard to sustain something at the level of like Endgame without having to pause, reset, and rebuild. I have not, for example, I've not seen season 2 of Loki yet. I haven't seen the Marvels yet, but I do plan to see that this weekend. But I did see a comic book adaptation that just came out a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this at all. Shortcomings by Adrian Tomine.
I know Adrian Tomine. I haven't read that one yet.
Is it Tomine or Tomine?
I think it. You know what? I think you're right. I think it's Tomine, but I've been saying Tomine forever. I don't know.
I've seen their name on a whole bunch of other projects, but I've never read Shortcomings.
Yeah, neither have I. So it got adapted into a film or a series or something?
No, into a film, and the director is Randall Park, who's a hilarious actor who's been in a lot of really good movies, and he directed it, and he has a small part in it. But yeah, it's just a fascinating indie film based off of a indie cartoon book, romance genre, kind of dark and dour. His work is very self-critical, and so the protagonist is not very likable. So that's an interesting angle, especially for romantic comedy. So that's not something you see a lot in the genre. It was a good film. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. Yeah, I had no idea that came out. I mean, kind of speaking in vein of that, like one of my favorite comic book adaptations of all time, maybe possibly my favorite one, is Ghost World.
Totally.
Ghost World. Love that movie, man. I think it's fantastic. Also, I recently watched another Daniel Clowes adaptation in Art School Confidential.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 3 or 4 page comic, and like they made a full film out of it, which is pretty insane.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's actually a really good movie and very interesting. Actually, Ken, you should check it out because it delves into like a young student going to art school, and like just like the trials and tribulations, all the seemingly very accurate characters that are portrayed in that movie. Like, you got your like super hipster people, you've got your people who just don't give a fuck. Right. But yeah, it'd actually be interesting to hear your take on it, Ken, to see how accurate it is as you're the in-house art school graduate.
Yeah,
at the Comix Grind.
Yeah, and it has a lot of themes that are relevant to anyone, in a creative endeavor. What is an authentic work? What is artistic integrity? Who are the posers? What are you willing to do for your art or for the fame that maybe that's what you actually want? So it's pretty fascinating movie.
Well, then how do those questions apply to you, Milton? Like, what is what do you consider authentic work, and do you think you've produced that by now?
Wow, that's a pretty tough question. The weird thing is, like, I feel like there's obviously some sort of middle ground between the values that intersect between art and commerce.
Right.
And one of my friends, that's one of his favorite topics in comics, and comics that hit that sweet spot between the two. I feel like I kind of have been able to adopt like a multiple personality disorder in a positive dimension, in that when
What
I'm
the heck?
working on the work, I'm 100% about the work and as authentic as I can be.
Uh-huh.
And then when I take that hat off and I put on salesman hat, I'm, the most severe greedy capitalist of all time.
Right.
And that side of me I didn't know even could exist. I've had some role models in that area. So I guess it's kind of both, but simultaneous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I mean, Milton, you and I, we table a lot together. And I certainly see that salesman come out you were talking
Right.
about, which is awesome. It's something we all kind of need to learn to balance.
Right.
At the very base of all this stuff, we do it because we love it, and there's a story that we want to tell. But then you got to make it. You can't just you can just make it just to make it. But if you want to have something sustainable about it, you need to make it and then promote it, sell it, learn how to get it into people's hands. And I've learned a ton of stuff from you, Milton, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
So I appreciate that for sure.
Right. And then like further, like to expand on what you said about the Daniel Klaus movie, like what are you willing to sacrifice to make your art? Like what is your highest vision, and what are you trying to accomplish with it?
I guess everything that doesn't physically harm another human being. Like,
Good answer.
like if we could do like an Ocean's 11 heist and rob a casino to fund all of our projects, I would definitely be morally compromised into doing that. But kind of in a more realistic frame.
What do you mean, man? I got the heist plans over here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yep.
So, in indie comics, there are daily, weekly, hourly compromises and conflicts and tensions between the life you want to lead and the art you want to create. And, am I going to miss this friend's wedding? Am I going to not hang out with the dudes and watch the football game? Am I going to, cut back on, going out to eat X number of times a month? Am I going to, what things am I willing to sacrifice? And anyone that's kind of on the fence about doing indie comics, I got some bad news for you. It's going to test you in that arena. I mean, coming from my limited viewpoint, I've had to make some very difficult choices that I didn't anticipate I would make. And I stand by them. And, in 10 years, if I'm underneath the overpass in August with the little sign saying, need money for beer and comics, that might be me, but the decisions I made kind of led me there. And
Right.
At this point, maybe it's the sunk cost fallacy, but I'm in,
Nice.
We're in.
And that's good, Ken.
I just wanted to like kind of finish off the question. It's like, do you believe the sacrifice will be worth it in the future, or has it been worth it to this point?
It's been worth it to this point, and it's amazing how few gems of like positive experiences it takes to sustain you in all of the efforts. I've told some stories with Nico, some of the really wonderful experiences that I've had. And like one 90-second interaction with a fan who's read your work and loved it, and connected with it at some level. And then they walk away from your table, and I look over at Nico. I'm like, okay, that'll keep me going for another year.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's kind of one of the things that I find so admirable about you, Milton, is like you've been so persistent over the years, man. So because the first book that you put out was it wasn't Thompson Heller. You had the one shots before that, correct?
Yeah, I had a couple of shorts before it. The very first thing that I ever had actually finished and completed was just an 8-page short called The Winter Sale. That I did in the Comix Experience workshop. And that thing came out just fantastically well.
Yeah.
I got lucky with my artist on that particular one. So, but yeah, that was the first thing I got finished.
What'd you call it?
Winter Sale.
Winter Sale.
It's a short story about a music shop owner who's kind of in that era between digital downloads and the kind of death of the CD format.
Uh-huh.
And the record shop that the music shop that it was based on is kind of an amalgamation of a real music store that a friend of mine in Indiana owned, and also a shop that the artist worked at. Artist was David Chisholm, who has gone on to do amazing music themed books.
Yeah.
He just released the official graphic novel biography of Miles Davis. I mean, literally this week.
Yeah.
So I was beyond fortunate to work with him.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's something there, because and from there you kind of been talk a little bit about like your pitching to publishers stuff. How was that whenever you kind of first started out pitching books to different publishers, and what kind of experiences did you have there? Was it kind of like a trials and tribulations thing, or was it a thing where you pitched something and it got auto accepted and you were hyped about it?
I kind of had a mixture of experiences at first. One of my first projects was Thompson Heller, and I pitched some very high profile publishers for that one, and I don't even know if I can still talk about everything that happened there. It was like a 3-year journey of it bounced around from different publishing arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
And for a brief period of time, it was with a very major publisher. And once that contract got signed, the original artist on that project was based in the UK, went completely AWOL on me. I literally don't even know if the person's alive or dead.
Wow.
I got completely ghosted, after all of this effort to like land a pitch at a publisher, and like, holy crap, we're at a big publisher. Yay. Hello.
Right.
Hello. Hey, where are you? Hello.
Yeah.
And so I had to completely start over. I had to eat the costs of all of the original work that was done. Ultimately, it turned out better for the book. And that is really the most important thing in all of the calculations. I ended up going with the artist that it should have been with all along. That time, it got published by a combination partnership between the Comix Experience workshop and Source Point Press. And they had this competition basically by people that were in the workshop to submit projects that were mini series. And I had 2 really close friends competing as well. And they both had their artists fail to hit the deadline. And I felt like all 3 of us were going to get published at the same time, and it just didn't happen for that reason. But I was fortunate enough to get published in that respect, and that was an amazing learning experience. both
Yeah.
from the Comix Experience side and from the Source Point side.
Yeah, kind of. So maybe detail a little bit for the viewers out there what Comix Experience was or is. I'm sorry, it's still ongoing as its program, right?
Yeah, it is. It
Oh.
recently has merged with Comics Connection, which is Gamal Hennessy's group, and now Gamal Hennessy
right.
runs Comics Experience as well. And I've been a little bit out of the loop of how things have changed, but generally speaking, it's a fantastic way to learn how to do either art or writing. The format is sort of twofold. They have classes that teach individual specific skills, and then there's an ongoing workshop where you submit work for critiquing, and it's peer level critiquing matched with professional critiquing. So what you do is, in order to publish or to share something within the workshop, you first have to critique a certain number of other works. So you need to review, like if you're gonna publish or if you're gonna share a script, you need to review like 3 or 4 other scripts before you share one of yours.
Right.
And so both being critiqued by peers and critiquing other peers are fantastic learning experiences.
Mhm.
A lot of us, when we start out, we share with our friends, and our friends are not going to tell us the truth. And number one, they might not even be qualified to tell us the truth. And you're burdening these people. So this gives you an in to people who, have the same goal as you. And even the worst script that I read, and there were, yes, some terrible scripts in there. Even the worst script I read, I learned from.
Yeah.
So it's a very valuable experience. And then also, in addition to the skills, you begin networking with peers that you know. And there are people well above us in the comics hierarchy right now that I at least have some sort of a relationship with. Like I reviewed one of their scripts, or I met them at a show, and so just as a bonus, you get to learn a lot of networking.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, that's a huge thing, especially because you were talking about Dave Chisholm. I mean, you met him there. That's kind of when he started off his comics career. I would assume, kind of starting out there in the program, and then suddenly you start doing work with him. Now you've got you published work with he was an Eisner nominated artist, correct?
Yeah, he was Eisner nominated a couple of years ago. Not for the art category, but for like the design category. But this year, knock on wood, he's going to get nominated for, I hope, multiple categories for his Miles Davis book.
Yeah. No, it looks excellent. But that's so. It was in all, Comix Experience was a super positive experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you writing scripts and things before that, or was that literally like your first kind of? I mean, I know you were writing movie scripts and everything because you were kind of you're a huge film guy, right? And that kind of coalesces with your love for comics. But so you were writing comic scripts specifically before Comix Experience?
Yeah, but the transition from script writing to comic script writing was much more of a challenge than I anticipated. And it was one of those times that one of the first times I tried to do a comic script, I shared it with a friend of mine, and I met with him at a Starbucks, and I didn't even need to hear the details of the review. I could just see it in his face. Like, how am I going to tell this guy that his dream is dead, that his script is a mess, and he sucks, and he needs to go do something else? But that was kind of helpful in the sense that I realized, okay, I can't put this person through this again. And he isn't really, able to provide the specific kind of tailored constructive criticism that you can get elsewhere with people that are kind of in the game, trying to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
yeah, that's when I segued over there, and I learned fairly. It was an accelerated process because when you see other people doing things, you learn a lot that way. And sometimes they'll give you like specific assignments, like, hey, write a story with this premise or this kind of a character or this sort of setting. And it's not something that you've already brought to the table or been working on. You just start from scratch, and you've got several other peers doing the same thing, and you see how other people are responding, and it just accelerates the learning process.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, man. And it would be interesting to, I mean, I know obviously Kubert School is a much more rigorous approach to having a comics education, but it'd be interesting to see like what they stack up, how one program correlates to the other, and see if there's any kind of intersecting things, because Comix Experience, was it a year-long program, or is it just as long as you want it to be? I can't remember.
It's kind of two things. It's as long as you want it to be as far as the workshop goes, and then the individual classes are varying in length.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It was something that I actually looked at, long, before I met you, Milton. It was something I was kind of checking out, and I was like, maybe it's something, but I didn't really have like the spare cash, laying around at the time. So I opted just to learn through doing the thing and fucking up a bunch,
Yeah.
Right.
but yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So kind of flash forward to a little bit more recently, and you kind of got your deal with Scout Comics. How
Yeah.
was that? How did that feel, man? Because it's, especially for me, for the people watching and things, there's a certain quote unquote status you get whenever you get published at somewhere like Scout. Scout has become a much more bigger name in the comics industry now. So how was that kind of initial acceptance like for you?
It was kind of amazing because it was a combination of emotions because I started out planning to self-publish it and launched it as a Kickstarter. And I made a very bad strategic error in the format of the structure of the Kickstarter. I was originally going to just do one issue and tease the rest of the series.
Mhm.
And some of my friends were just so hyped about the series. They're like, man, this idea is gold. You gotta push it further. Screw the one issue. Go for the whole graphic novel. Up your budget. Just do the whole thing. This is gonna work. And it didn't. And it was very humbling and disappointing. And like on the first day, I had like a 30-day Kickstarter window. And on the first day, I knew that it was a failure. And it was weird because I was getting all sorts of compliments, and I was getting retweeted by some really big names in the industry. And which, when you're imagining a path to success, that might be one part of like what you're thinking, like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if such and so tweeted it out and said something nice? And that exact same thing happened.
Yeah.
But what gets traction with certain audiences and what translates into pledges is kind of a secret spooky science. And I wasn't aware of that at the time. And so I pitched the goal at a number, and I had never done a Kickstarter before. So
Right.
everyone else was coming to this like, who's this freaking guy thinking he's going to deliver this $15,000 project? Like, I don't know about this dude. Within one day, I knew that I wasn't going to hit the goal. And then you have to put on a brave face and keep showing up on the podcast and keep sharing it and keep hoping that there's going to be some sort of turnaround. And it's a grind. And after about 2 weeks of it, it's just super deflating. And then after the Kickstarter officially wrapped up and was a failure, within about a week, the folks at Scout contacted me and they're like, "Hey, we really love this idea. We want to do this. Do you still want to do it?"
Yeah.
Holy crap! Yes. I went from despair to joy, and
yeah,
like a
was it like immediately after the campaign ended? You just saw email in your inbox?
Yeah, it was within about a week. It was within about a week of the campaign ending.
Yeah.
Nice. And what's the book called?
Funny you should mention. It is Orson Welles, Warrior of the Worlds.
Nice.
So the premise, real quickly, apologies to Nico, who has heard this a million times before. If you're not familiar with Orson Welles, one of the things he's most famous for was pulling a prank broadcast right before Halloween in 1938, in which he convinced the world that aliens had arrived on Earth through a radio drama.
Wow.
And the world freaked out. It was front page news the next day. There were some suicides. There were people who fled their homes. It was just an all-around freak out. And there were changes to the law to talk about, to restrict what a person can claim on the air is truth or is a stretch of the truth. And so the comic takes the premise of, well, this radio prank, what if it wasn't a prank? What if an alien invasion really happened and Orson Welles was on the site narrating the events and that everything we heard in that famous broadcast was actually true? Well, what happens next is he becomes part of a secret agency protecting Earth from aliens, and he's a movie director by day, alien hunter by night.
Oh yeah, that's it right there, man.
Yeah, that's the concept, man.
And what you guys are not able to see here, for those viewers out here, is that shows Milton has this fantastic poster board detailing all the events of the radio broadcast, which is like he might have it. He might there it is.
Nice.
It's one of those amazing pitches at shows you'll see. I mean, he'll give you the spiel, he'll give you a breakdown historically and everything. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, I didn't know there was I didn't know that caused suicides and whatnot. I didn't even hear. I never heard of this story.
Yeah, see, we've got a wide range of audiences out there. Some people have never heard any of that stuff, and they're fascinated just by the real story. And then there are people who know the full story, and they're fascinated by the twist. So I was a little worried that younger audiences would just not be interested, and I've found at shows and online it's just the opposite. Young people are intrigued. So I'm very, very pleasantly surprised.
Nice.
Yeah. Here's a question that's kind of popped up here, Milton. Just kind of hearing you pitch Orson Welles again. Like, I know you're a huge Orson Welles guy. Is there kind of like a single thing that you can kind of pinpoint why you kind of connect to Orson Welles so much, and so much to the point where you're adapting one of his kind of stories, his myths? Is there like a singular thing that really connects you to the guy?
It's not a singular thing, but I can definitely point to a singular moment. When I was a huge film buff as a kid. I got into kind of advanced cinema even as early as 11 years old. And I grew up when the original Star Wars movies were coming out, and they had those behind the scenes shows on PBS where they would show the behind the scenes of how the special effects were done. And so I was aware that there were craftspeople behind the scenes in these projects, but I really only thought about it in terms of like science fiction, because you have all the special effects. I never really thought about the craftsmanship into just your standard drama. And then when I was in my 20s, there was a special screening at the River Oaks Theater of Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. And I went to see that on the big screen, and I'd never seen it before. And it was just so thunderously obvious that there was this amazing creative vision behind the camera that was guiding you through this amazing story. And I walked out of that theater just completely transformed. And I loved the film. And I wanted to learn more about, like, how did someone do this, like, in 1940 and 1941 without, digital technology or any of the tools that are available to the modern filmmakers? How did he do some of this crazy, amazing photography and editing? And so that sort of just led me down the biggest rabbit hole, and I'm still in it.
Yeah,
Nice.
dude, that's awesome, dude. I love hearing that because, thinking about Orson Welles, he's a guy that did everything, right? He was, writer, cinematographer, director, all these kind of things. And, by writing a script, you're kind of taking into account a lot of that stuff, dialogue, you're thinking of settings, you're thinking of kind of, situation, you're thinking of camera shots if you need to. So do you think that there's kind of some kind of like link between like your comics and Orson Welles, like the desire to do comics now?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, it really lit into me the desire to become a storyteller. And that, and then studying his life and all the different ways in which he did creative things. It definitely, it has parallels in comics, even if they are not, one-to-one comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to get into film at some point down the line, or do you want to just stay in comics?
I would like to do a film at some point. I don't know if I have the capacity personally to direct a film. I've tried a few times, and I've had some difficulty managing multiple people simultaneously,
right,
making the required decisions right on the spot without being like a dickhead. And so, like one of the times I tried to film something on set, the combination of the technical requirements and the social requirements just fried my brain, and I couldn't handle it. Right. I've worked a lot on my social skills since then. And I'm kind of gone from a 0 point to at least having some. I don't know if I'm like D- or whatever, but whatever I am, D- is still infinitely better than 0.
Yeah.
So I might be able to, and the efficiencies in digital filmmaking might make it a little more possible. So it's possible. It's possible.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll tell you that Milton, me, and our friend Justin, we shot a badass advertisement video at one point, and there were some dope ass shots in there. So you got it in you, Milton. You got it.
Nice.
One kind of interesting thing, Ken, we spoke about this on the podcast before, but the kind of benefit about finding like your niche in comics.
Yeah.
In terms of like, what book you're doing and everything. And I feel like it's interesting because, Orson Welles in itself, like it's pretty dang niche, it's pretty niche.
Right.
But the very positive thing about that is like, I've tabled next to Milton at many a shows, and like seeing that instant connection to the people who know what you're doing, who know Orson Welles, it's pretty awesome to see. Because once they even see the billboard, man, when they see Orson Welles, Warrior of the Worlds, they instantly know, and it's almost like you instantly got him. You instantly got a sale. Did that ever kind of factor into like your creation of the book, or was it strictly just I got to do it, because it's in my brain, or were you kind of maybe structuring the story around maybe some some of those like fan bases that will kind of understand the nuances of Orson Welles and all kind of like the Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff?
I was always destined to do some sort of Orson Welles story, because I'm just such a huge fan. And in fact, one of the other comics I did was about the film critic Roger Ebert. And it's a 10-page short, and it was part of an anthology where the comic creator was to introduce themselves to other people by telling a story of someone famous that they would want to go on a road trip with. And I would have originally chosen Orson Welles, but the editor of that project chose Orson Welles before I even got a chance, which turned out to be a fantastic twist and turn, because that person left the project. But I had already finished the Roger Ebert story by then. So it wasn't like I was going to go back and do an Orson Welles story. And I thought maybe I would do like a straightforward biography or something. But at some point, this science fiction alternate history project just sort of bubbled up into my head. And I didn't think about it in terms of audiences or even tone or craft or anything. And I shared the premise with a few trusted people who I have shared tons of other potential premises with, and they were like, "Oh wait, I really like this. You got to develop this further." And I was surprised because, like Nico said, it's very, very niche. And I thought, "Oh wait, this is too niche. Nobody's gonna care about this." But I've been pleasantly surprised ever since. And people who have no clue who he is get to learn a lot about his career and about his personality and about his impact on the arts. I do it in a very silly sort of way, but the story, when the full graphic novel is complete, it comprises his entire basically creative life. So you'll get glimpses of all the different phases of his life.
Oh, that's great.
Nice. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait. Do you have a date for that, for the full trade yet? Or is that still kind of, I guess, kind of explain for the viewers what the Scout kind of situation is with
Yeah, Scout is releasing it in what they're calling the nonstop format, where they put out the first issue and you get to gauge, like, hey, do I like this series or not? And then boom, instead of going through all the individual chapters, they're going to move ahead and publish the entire graphic novel.
Right.
And
so
right now we don't have a nailed down date. I'm thinking perhaps spring as a season, somewhere in the spring parameters is the hope.
But that first issue people can still order and buy right now, or because I know it came out, not too long ago, but is it still something?
It's still, you can buy it at scoutcomics.com.
There you go.
Nice.
Okay. Cool, man. There's one thing that kind of came out of there. Is there, because so you did the Ebert book, you did Orson Welles. I mean, I don't know if this is even relevant at this point, but is there any kind of worry that you don't want to be known as like the film comic guy, if that makes sense? You do Robert Ebert book, you do Orson Welles book, you do Stephen King book. I don't know, whatever the next one is. Is there like a fear there? Is that maybe something that you want to lean into?
I'm of two minds with that. I'm slightly worried about it in the sense that I don't want to be known only for that. But those two have really succeeded, and readers have really liked it. And I do have a few other things that I would say could be anchored to either filmmaking in general or like a specific creative person that I have an affinity for. And so I may do that. There's oh boy, how can I tease this without giving it away? There's a
just spill Milton.
There's a creative voice from Texas that is particularly beloved by me, that I have a crazy idea for a comic for. And I'm going to approach the official channels of that entity and pitch them the idea at some point. It's like famous person mashed up with like a comic booky type of trope thing. That's probably too frustrating to let you know, but the other thing though, Nico is aware of this. You guys are always talking about niches. The niche that I'm trying to develop, also, I'm a huge sports fan, and one of my favorite genres is sports manga. Sports and comics blend really well in Japan. They haven't in the United States yet in terms of American publishers, but if you look at the Amazon listings, they sell in the United States big time.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to break that barrier in the US, and I've got a couple of sports themed comic ideas, and my main project that my whole career is kind of aiming towards is a manga that's a combination of sports and science fiction. So I hope I can get that project done. It's a very ambitious project, but that's kind of where all of this is weaving towards. But choosing between that and being the movie guy, maybe I'll just end up being the movie guy. I don't know, but
I think maybe you start off as the movie guy and evolve into your final form, I guess.
That's my hope.
I was also about to ask, like, the sports manga. Have you read Blue Lock?
I haven't read all of it. I've read some of the first few volumes. I'm trying to learn how to draw, and it's pretty late in life to learn how to draw.
Yeah.
But so I'm kind of at a kind of a bit of a crossroads. Like, I need to set a goal as to, can I get good enough in a finite amount of time, or can we do the Ocean's 11 heist so I can afford an artist to do this project? Right. One of those two things is going to determine whether or not, and to be frank, it's so challenging. I may have to rethink this project and do it just as a prose novel series, which I think would be great. But my first love is visual media, so I want to try to do it in a visual media first.
Do you have a specific sport that you like, a specific sports type manga that you like, or do you like all genres?
Oh, I like all. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
What's your favorite one? What was the one that you kept on telling me about? The volleyball one?
My favorite one is Haikyuu, the volleyball one.
Nice.
It's just incredible. The art's incredible, and the way it depicts sports defies everything you hear. Like, most American creators say you can't do sports on the page. There's no excitement. You can't convey it in a comic, and that manga proves that everyone who says that is full of doo-doo.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's I've seen snippets, and I know of premises of things that Milton has pitched to me in terms of sports things, and they're badass, and I cannot wait to see those come.
Fingers crossed.
But I think that there's some kind of happy medium where you can get all that stuff in there. I mean, you could do, how about a comic adaptation of Rudy? There you go. There's a film and sports all in one. Hoosiers, maybe? I don't know. Space Jam?
I would probably be more of a Hoosiers guy than a Rudy guy.
There you go. I dig that. I dig that.
Nice.
Yeah, but so we're kind of reaching about an hour here.
Yeah.
Usually about the length of our episodes. Ken, you got any last questions for Mr. Milton here?
No. I think I've exhausted my my questions there.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up, guys. Milton, before we get out of here, let the good people out there know where they can find you on all the socials, all your Substacks, and all that kind of cool stuff.
So I'm in almost every social media format. I'm at Citizen Milton. Another Orson Welles reference, of course.
Yep.
And on Substack, I'm milton.substack.com. I was an early adopter on that, so I just got my first name. So,
Nice.
but yeah, and yeah, right now it's kind of weird, the whole social media thing. Like, a lot of people are saying that they're not seeing the conversion from the artist formerly known as Twitter to crowdfunding campaigns. So it's and I'm putting my toe in on Blue Sky and Threads, and I'm trying to figure out, what's going to be the next thing. So follow me on all of them.
I heard recently the best for getting backers is Facebook.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it was Twitter. I've been on Twitter, like I post every day on Twitter, but Facebook is what I've heard is like the best for getting actual paying backers. But everywhere else is like you get followers, that's nice, but it doesn't directly translate as much as Facebook does.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, honestly, like with Twitter X, like I hardly get on there anymore. Like I don't really even have a desire to. I don't know why. It's weird. It's been a weird couple months for sure.
Right.
But also, you guys out there watching, go to scout.com and or scoutcomics.com, whatever it is, and pick up Orson Welles, because you don't want to miss the stuff, guys. It's dope as hell. There it is.
Ooh.
There's the date. What is that? The Dave Chisholm cover, right?
Yeah,
Nice.
indeed.
Nice. Awesome stuff, man.
Yeah.
And Ken, how about you, man? Where can they find you? Boom.
Nice. Yeah, everyone can find me on Twitter, X at thecomicsgrind, and you can also find me on Instagram at comicsgrind. And I guess I'll be making a Facebook now. And I mean, I've already been on there, but I guess I'll start using it some more.
Yeah.
And you can also find me, find my comic Air Rider High School Hero at Global Comics, or you can find it on Webtoons if you look.
Awesome. And you guys can find me on Instagram and on X, which I don't get on much, at Nico_writes. You can also follow me on my Substack at nicorodriguez.substack.com, where I am serializing my Substack comic called Brew Monsters. It's a fun book about 5 monster friends who open up a brewery in Transylvania. So get on that because you can read it for free. But other than that, Milton, thank you so much for joining us, dude. We definitely need to have you on again because I feel like we still have lots to unpack there. But thanks so much, and thank all you for watching as well. Throw some comments down there, subscribe, and give us all that love because we appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.